Yeah, so welcome everyone. We're very delighted to have you here. Thank you all for signing up. We've seen great responses and fast responses. I know some people signed up as soon as the advert went out, so we are very grateful to have you. Yeah, we're going to take you through this From Numbers to Growth webinar, presented to you by Telistic Technology Services. Highlighting here the keynote speakers today. Myself, Jane Mukulu. I am the Business Development Manager with Telistic Technology Services. Then on the team, we have Edwin Muise. He's the data scientist with Telistic Technology Services. We have Andrew Lobo. Andrew is our senior software and data engineer. And then we have Oscar Miner, who is our infrastructure engineer. You will get to hear from all of them as we go about this. Just to take you through the agenda for today, as advertised, we shall have this welcome and introduction remarks. Then there's a keynote presentation on the state of business data analytics. Then we have a masterclass. You'll be able to have a dive into some of these dashboards that we have worked with. You'll see where this can go. It starts from small to big. We have had a chance to work on different level projects, so you will be able to go. The instructors, presenters will be able to take you through that. Then we shall have a moment for security and governance. Then the Q&A and closing remarks. We hope that this webinar, the presentations and all the presentations will be done within 1 hour. And then we shall have 10 minutes because we started at 11:05. We shall have 10 minutes of Q&A into the hour of midday, like from midday to, we should be able to stop at midday, 15, a quarter past midday. So we shall use those minutes. We hope that you guys are able to stay on until the end to make sure that we address whatever you were expecting from this webinar. I'm going to just highlight, it's always important that you know who is talking to you, why they are talking to you, and in what capacity. So this slide is what I'm going to handle first, and it really just highlights what we do at Telistic, who we are. We are Telistic Technology Services. We have presence in Uganda. We have presence in Nairobi, Kenya. We have presence in West Africa and in the US. We are a Microsoft partner. And this here highlights this here highlights the different services that we offer. Business applications and automation. Most of these services are on the Microsoft stack. So we are majorly Microsoft, though not exclusively. Some of the services highlighted are our own services. So we have business applications and automation, and this is where we handle the licensing of Office 365, Dynamics, all those applications that really are used, productivity applications and the business applications are handled here. But it's important to note that we do automation around those platforms to make you work seamlessly, to get you to work paperless. We are able to, we have the expertise to build services on top of Office 365. We have data analytics and artificial intelligence. This is really the core of our webinar today, and then we used to be called, I guess Microsoft changed the way they refer to that, but we were a certified gold partner in data analytics. They now use solution partner, but we are big on Power BI. That's what we use, and we're going to take you through that. CTO as a service, we really support organizations that do not have fully fledged IT departments around their IT practice. So if you want something like that, we're able to bring on Telistic as a team to support you. Then here we say capacity building. We really are big on training. We go in depth on across all the services that we offer. to just make sure that the client departments, the client, the client staff basically are empowered to carry on with these services even when we are gone. So when we set up, we make sure that you are trained, but we can also train your team to delve deeper into some of these services, so you're able to do it on your own without us. Yeah, security, we also do support organizations around their security practice, taking them through the audits to just make sure that you're compliant as required. We also have devices as part of our business. We supply computers, laptops, desktops, based on the client requirements. We do custom application development or modernization. If you have something that you did already build for your organization, but you want it to perform better, to be accessible on the web and via mobile, we're able to guide you through that. Then lastly, we handle Azure services. That's the Microsoft Cloud services. From assessing your need to helping you optimize your usage when you sign on, we guide you through all that. So at a high level, that's what we have about Tellistic. I'm hoping that most of the people have now settled in. I would like to hand over to my colleague, Andrew, to carry on with the rest of the presentation. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Jim. Good morning and welcome once again. My name is Andrew Lobo, and I'm a senior software data engineer with the Tellistic team. I will be walking you through this portion of the presentation. So I'd like to start by giving a brief history lesson on the state of computing as it relates to business processes. Computing over the last 100 years has changed dramatically. In the 1920s, people were using paper-based systems, and that went on for about 30 years before the invention of mechanical systems. So previously, I believe in the 70s, what was being used were punch card systems to be able to mark attendance. And that grew over time with the development of the transistor and the microconductor to allow for personal computing. So it miniaturized these computers and made them smaller, which allowed for smaller computers, such as the desktops, laptops, and mobile phones you see today. That all started in the 80s. And during this time, there was also a development of software technologies such as Lotus 123, if anyone remembers that, and Oracle and Tally. All these different systems were actually invented back then, including Microsoft Excel. Which is part of the basis of Power BI, which will be part of our presentation. And then as computing demands grew, that went on to get migrated into the cloud. So cloud computing was able to handle a number of tasks, including the need for no infrastructure. It allowed companies to scale largely. And that's gone on until today. How it currently is today is that we're seeing, over the last 5 years, we're seeing a rise in data analytics, automation, and AI being used in these businesses. Data being at the core of it. A lot of businesses are now relying on their data. The term data-driven decision-making has become a norm in the workplace. Reports are generated by almost every department that exists within an organization. This data is being used for a number of reasons. You have it being used for just analysis of any aspect of your business. It could be your customer base, it could be your profit margins, and then that's getting pulled into the fold with AI to allow for more complex procedures, such as being able to do fraud detection and forecasting. There's been a digitization of the workplace, bringing in paperless systems. So processes that were usually handled on paper these days are getting migrated into other systems to allow for more seamless data capture for a business. And as these things start to get picked up, governance and compliance has become more crucial to businesses. And what you're seeing is that there's a high rate of adoption across different sectors. in different organizations of these technologies. Data analytics across most sectors within business have risen, with companies looking to adopt the technologies and others looking to others actually adopting the technologies for their business. These trends have been these trends today look like a lot of different things. Key among them is that there's a democratization of not just data analytics but AI. What you're seeing is that there's a rise of tools that allow for just regular users to be able to analyze their data without needing to develop any specific skill set. So things like Power BI allow for that. We're seeing a rise in real-time analytics. So the data is generated over since because of the growth of all these different systems and the rise of these types of devices. Everyone on this call, not everyone, but most of everyone on this call might have a mobile device which is generating data in real time currently. And in the business landscape, it might look like IoT devices, but even more simply, it might be a social media feed within for your organization. And what companies are doing is that they're looking to collect this data to get an understanding of what their business is, the brand perception of their businesses. And the data has become valuable to the point that what's happening is that people are attaching more systems to this data. So you'll find people attaching AI, LLMs to your data to be able to derive insight. So you ask a question and the data gives you back a response. And it's essentially a tool, but it allows you to more quickly get what information you want out of that information, out of that data that you're collecting. And it goes into different areas, such as still in the realm of AI. You'll take your data, you'll have someone analyze it, define the correlations, and then be able to build a model that will be able to predict certain outcomes for you. So you have your sales data for the last 5 years, you have features around that sales data. You after analysis, you take you define an ML model that will be able to tell you, give you certain indicators that might be useful. It might tell you your revenue is going to go down at a particular point. And because the data is so vast, it would be difficult or time consuming to get an analyst to do this. But with these technologies, it's become a lot easier and accessible for companies to do this. Last one amongst them being data monetization. The entire business model, this company is built around the business model of collecting data and monetizing on it. But companies that don't primarily focus on that as their business model, also looking at being able to monetize the data they collect. It might be your customer database, it might be customer preferences, and making that data available to other companies is a crucial strategy in being able to maybe find a secondary source of income. But that's what's been happening over the last 5 and 100 years in total. But it hasn't been that easy. So for most businesses, what's happened, the process occurred in the sense that businesses started small with their data modernization journey. They might have picked a system that would work for their finance team, and then picked other systems for different departments, sales and marketing, HR. And then they might have decided to move on to a more robust system so they'll get an ERP. But other systems might be more useful to certain departments than others. So what's happened is the landscape has a lot of different systems that exist across the ecosystem, and all these different systems generate reports. So you find in an organization you have maybe 5 to 10 departments. All these departments are generating data. That data needs to be collated into a report. The report is generated, and then it's sent up to management. And what happens is that the management team is looking at maybe 5 to 10 reports every so often with an Excel sheet, maybe with 10 to 15 sheets inside it. So it becomes very difficult for these management teams to be able to adapt, taking up data-driven decision-making because that data isn't quickly accessible at the time they need it. And that isn't the only problem. You'll find with all these systems, I just mentioned, you'd have an integration problem. So if you wanted to define a single report with all the information from all the departments, being able to ingest everything and provide one singular unified view, you find that gets difficult. On top of that, some of these systems might generate poor data. So you have a problem with data quality. You need to be able to have a team that can be able to analyze that data. So there's a skills gap. There's governance and compliance, which has become a major issue over the last couple of years. You need to make sure that you're adhering to the rules of your administrative area. And then on top of that, in order to build good data practices, there's a cost in play. This cost, and we'll talk about the mitigations to each of these. This cost might hinder or stop certain companies from engaging in this for certain reasons. On top of that, there are already business practices in the organization. People in the company might not want to adapt or not adapt so easily. There's latency issues with real-time analytics and concerns around bias in certain areas of AI, which might actually come from your own data within the organization. For each of these, there are a number of mitigation strategies for data quality and integration. I mentioned a number of tools have come up. Primarily amongst them is Power BI. So Power BI has the ability to ingest various types of data and put it into one single location. For the skills gap and skills shortage, what I mentioned earlier, that there's a rise of tools that allow regular individuals to be able to analyze their own data, and Power BI is chief amongst them. It actually succeeds in that area. For data governance, this is mostly a knowledge gap, and Tellistic as an organization does provide an advisory capacity on it being able to fit within these rules and regulations. These tools that have come up have one of their major problems was these tools were initially used by large business enterprises. Business intelligence tools were used by large business enterprises, and what's happened is that they developed them to be more consumer friendly, to be more client friendly, so that the cost of starting up is lower. For example, for Power BI, you can actually get started with it today free. You can actually go pick it up and get started with that piece of software, analyzing your own data, and then just experiment to understand how the tool works. And it's very easy in that regard. But let's look at how companies are leveraging. Given all these concerns, companies are still leveraging their data to improve their businesses and have it relate to actual financial return at the end of the day. So we've all heard of the big companies, the Amazons and the Netflixes. A lot of you might wouldn't know them, but they are actually leveraging a lot of AI to achieve a market advantage. Amazon, for example, looks at your browsing history, and it will be able to determine using AI which products you're likely to buy, likely to actually pick based on your previous history. Netflix and Spotify will actually take your viewing patterns, and Spotify will curate a playlist specific to you to increase your engagement on the platform. So what Spotify is looking to do is make sure that you're constantly there listening to their music, and that actually relates to their financial returns at the end of the day, their ROI. And the same with Netflix. All these platforms really want you to engage with it. TikTok does the same thing. All the major platforms are doing this. Coca-Cola will use it to leverage this to devise marketing campaigns. So a big part of it is being able to understand your data. A lot of times you collect your data, but you don't know who your customer actually is. The first piece comes in being able to build a customer profile, understand who your customer is, and then look at how to target different campaigns at different individuals to market, to maximize your sales, essentially. So that's been a core strategy that's been used. Uber and airlines use it for dynamic pricing. So if it's rush hour, your price goes up, the price goes up, they make more money. Same thing with airlines. You might everyone knows that buying a ticket on the off season is better than buying it on the on season, but they still do have algorithms that are able to determine, even during different times of day, what price you'd likely pay for a ticket, over if you bought it, like if you bought it at midnight, over if you bought it at 2 p.m. Midnight might be urgent, you might be going for an emergency, you might be late on buying the ticket, so they might charge you higher on that ticket. And then financial companies are using it to be able to do fraud detection, customer segment analysis, and things like that. So these tools are being leveraged by the big companies to gain a competitive edge in their businesses. But it's not just reserved for the big businesses, because AI has become more accessible to everyone now. Data analytics, AI, all these tools have become more accessible. And what's happening is that local companies are actually doing it to be able to benefit themselves as well. So you'll find revenue authorities using it to do revenue analysis, detect, first of all, being able to analyze your revenue base is crucial, similar to being able to understand your customer. Analyzing your revenue base is very crucial to understand what the makeup is and maybe where your shortfalls are coming from. But on top of that, you might use it to do fraud detection. So tax fraud is a big thing with revenue authorities across the world. What's happening, even in areas regionally, is that they're using these technologies to be able to detect fraud within their data set. So the data is collected, it's brought in from all these different systems. They will have a machine learning algorithm go through it, and they'll do an analysis with all these data analysis tools, and they'll be able to generate a more concise fraud list from that data. Utility companies are using it for customer segment analysis. So they will look at data coming in from all their streams. It might be their customer support system, it might be from social media streams, and then use sentiment analysis, which kind of defines how well your customer thinks about you based on the messages they post about you, and be able to look at how well their brand or their image is perceived to the general public. Banks are using a lot of the same tools as maybe revenue authorities, but one key amongst them is that they're using clustering and customer segmentation. So this splits the customers into different groups and allows those groups kind of guide how you either make a sale to them for a particular product or market something, market certain services to them. So these tools have brought more insight to these companies, and what the direct outcome is that from this insight, you're getting more revenue. It's this insight wasn't available before. These marketing campaigns were mostly non-existent. What will happen is that by using these tools, carrying out using these technologies, they're able to better define, based on the data that they actually had. This is information that they had previously. They're able to better define or build a better business strategy for the organizations, and be able to see an ROI on that, see profit come out of that. So I'll just stop here and maybe pause if there are any questions before we jump on to the next speaker. Okay, if there are no questions, I'll just hand off to my colleague, Edmund, to carry out the next part of the presentation.
Right. Thank you, Andrew. Just confirming whether I am audible.
Yes, you are.
Right. Let's dive right in. So, after Andrew's presentation and Jen's earlier, very many clients, and we find this in the industry as well. There is a misconception that Power BI is maybe a big, powerful tool for the Fortune 500, or it's for entities that have so many numbers to crunch. It's true, but you'll be surprised that Microsoft has gone through a great deal of effort to make sure that Power BI is an end user tool, as Andrew has kept saying all along. It's very easy to use, even if you're not a coder. And in line, the other thing that happens is, for a lot of our then turn clients, their first issue when they present it within their companies, they say, well, how does this weigh against budgets like marketing? How does it weigh against budgets like, sales acquisition or customer acquisitions? And the surprising thing is it weighs right up there with a lot of those items. So this is not something an entity goes to when things are going well or when there's excess money to spare. No, that's not the case, because right now it is what can be leveraged to ensure that companies grow their market share without necessarily, it's a lot cheaper than going into a marketing drive and all that. You use what has already been invested in as far as infrastructure to make sure that the entity grows. And of course, in line with our webinar, From Numbers to Growth, the next two demos that I'm going to be walking you through are going to be relating to how Power BI and analytics can actually influence increasing sales, increasing market share, reducing or improving cost efficiency within the company. What we have before you is a sentiment analysis or sentiment analytics dashboard. In this case, sentiment analysis generally sometimes it's also called opinion mining based on text, and it's also this is here to debunk that you don't only have to crunch numbers with Power BI. Power BI is equally adept in handling qualitative, and there's nothing as extreme and qualitative as natural language processing, because these are words people are saying either on your social media or for those entities that have ticketing systems. These are customer reviews. All those are qualitative in nature, and we're going to see how we are able to use that. Now, sentiment analysis can be used in terms of relating to profitability. It can review areas of improvement for for companies. It's also used for service and product improvement. It also helps organizations to be able to identify influence identification. And then obviously one of the hardest things to measure or verify for those in sales and marketing is the return on investment, because ideally you might market today and then whatever you're marketing for today gets recouped 2 years later. And also sometimes marketing is a series of continuous effort. So it's very hard to normally measure return on investment for marketing drives. Sentiment does that because normally people give feedback in a very natural way, and they don't really have to go and fill in numbers on that. That said, it also relates with AI, because I saw a lot of those attending the webinar have a big interest in how AI comes in to play a role with Power BI. What we're going to be looking at is Power BI, but it's also powered within by AI augmented visions, cognitive services, like image tagging, and it's also going to be using it can use Azure machine learning integrations as well. So that out of the way, this case study was for a utility company within Sub-Saharan Africa. And what you'll see, what they were doing was pulling all the comments from their Twitter handle, and it goes through a dictionary or a natural language processing machine learning algorithm that picks up whatever everybody is saying on Twitter or on X relating to their company handle, identifies whether what they are saying is neutral, is positive, or a negative opinion. As you can imagine, for utility companies, rarely does somebody ever take the effort to say, oh, telco XYZ, you're so good. Most times we normally go there to vent, and that is why you realize that over here we have more of our negative sentiment. We have more negative sentiment than the positive, and a lot of it being neutral in that they're just comments on there. So that out of the way, this was mined over time, and you can see that Power BI and through this algorithm can even pick up messages in Kiswahili, in English. You can go by date, and this is important because what looks like something naturally occurring that is very sometimes difficult to correlate and aggregate. Now, this organization was able to have everything that has been said time immemorial and was able to start ranking that. For example, when you click on the negative sentiment, what you will see are some of the things. I lose a lot of business every time my phone is off. You're seeing things like There's an issue with power over there. And what you're seeing is week in, week out, you're able to see where the negative sentiment in this particular case was increasing or was reducing. You can see that even the positive sentiment, you can tell what the chatter was. So this is also a very good way for organizations to measure their social media efforts or their outreach efforts on the different social media areas. Or in case it's a private company and not really big on this, you can relate this to ticketing as well, where customers raise different issues. So having a dashboard like this internally can be a very, very powerful way of helping entities prioritize. But again, it's pulling in all this information as it naturally occurs. The next bit of information here is now, how do we relate whatever is being said on social media, whatever is being said through ticketing, to help operationalize or dictate how the organization prioritizes and operates? Now, in the case of this utility company, so much was being said, but you find that internally they have things that they care more for than others. So what happened here is they created their own key terms that are important to them. So lights, issues, tokens, transformers, power blackout. So amidst the verbiage that is being said on social media, they are taking key things that they want to focus on. And Power BI allows you to create this word cloud that allows you to just see at a bird's eye view something qualitative. And what you see is the bigger the word, the more times that word has been mentioned. So obviously, Utility Co-Care, in this case, is the name of the company, and as you can imagine, it's being tagged a lot. But you'll see words like power, you'll see words like account, you'll see words like light showing up bigger than others. For example, if we go by location, and I think we have in here so many places called Banda in East Africa. So there's a place called Banda in this case. If we select that, you can see that the word cloud lights up immediately, and you can see that in that area or in that region of Banda, there's an issue with Bandari apartments. That's why, because there's a lot of chatter on X about that particular apartment. So it's taking something qualitative where it will take a lot of people telling you that there's a problem. Now it's taking what they're saying, relating it with your keywords, and allowing the organization internally to say, if we are looking at Banda, there is an issue with Bandari apartments, let's start there, alongside some of the other smaller things. And it might be related to the rain in the area, because you'll see that those are the ones that are being mentioned quite a bit. If we pick one last example on this and say, pick Bendera, let's see, a second. If you pick Bendera, what you'll see now is another issue lights up, because they have internally, the organization has set these units. You can see that there's a transformer issue, there's a blowout, and it's probably in Spring Valley. And all this is natural language, it's verbiage on social media, but then you're able to use it to something that can profit or can reduce costs or can increase customer satisfaction for the company. The last bit I'm going to look at in this case is let's have a look at the classifications. This is the second last, actually. So again, now we've gone through all these stages. Now they have a customer service center, and they have this. You can imagine a huge screen, or if you're a telco company, or if you're a bank, people are raising all these issues. There can be a huge screen where all these different tickets are being put on. The customer service team is there to prioritize and know what should we go after. So in this case, there's a huge screen, you can imagine, that has their key areas they target. So you'll see there's blackouts, there's voltages, there's tokens. And many times what we've realized in Power BI is, even before we start the analytics, internally, you as an organization or as industry experts, you have your own assertions. For example, in this, if you imagine with me, in this organization, one would say maybe, it's more important that we handle transformer issues or tokens. But you can see that in this case, you're able to quantify and aggregate. You're seeing these entities having more issues with tokens than transformer issues. Why is that important? Because now you can prioritize, and this is now making Power BI to influence operations. You can prioritize and say, let us start in this area. So if you have finite resources, you're saying maybe let's handle the token issues that are coming up, because those are very easy to solve. Or some might say, let's handle transformer issues because they have a ripple effect to tokens and blackouts, which are also a very, very high thing in this area. So that's again using analytics to grow to increase your customer satisfaction and to allow your organization to operate better. One of the last features in Power BI that is so powerful is its ability to integrate with maps. So for example, if you are an organization that goes out in the field or that has multiple locations, this becomes very important. Power BI integrates with Bing Maps, and you can see that in this case, we've used one of the entities in Kenya, for example. You will see that as you zoom in, you can see different locations where these streets have actually been mentioned. If you're an organization that has branches, you can see where the different branches are and how you can be able to prioritize those. And that's very important because a lot of the top executive management, a lot of donors, if you're a non-profit, a lot of board members, a lot of your customers are more visual, and they don't want to see big spreadsheets saying where your locations are and what's happening. This is a very easy and friendly way to present where the different issues are. For example, if I look up the transformer issues over here, you can very quickly start to see where transformer issues are. And for utility companies that have field teams, this can start to dictate where those resources are committed or where they can start from. As you zoom in more and more, you can start to tell which areas are having transformer issues. And that's a very efficient way of prioritizing where you dedicate your resources. That said, we're going to quickly switch into another mode, which is another example showcasing the effects or to what effect Power BI can be used. And this has been extensively used in financial organizations, banks, insurance companies, revenue authorities, tax authorities all over the world. And it's the form of fraud or anomaly detection. Again, similar to the model we are taking earlier, how does fraud and anomaly detection help take an organization from just mere numbers to growth? It reduces losses because you catch this beforehand. You can use it to activate through the channel analysis. You can get to know which customers are likely to drop off from using your services even before it happens, because customer lifetime value is what makes it worthwhile for organizations to invest, knowing that they're going to recoup their money over a long time. It can prevent revenue leakages, and it's also very good for competitive advantage analysis using product differentiation. In this case, again, to relate with how analytics or how AI comes into the aspect of analytics, this dashboard is using augmented visuals. It's using cognitive services like image tagging. And then we are also going to be looking at the different algorithms, machine learning algorithms like the random forest and the red flag theory that are happening in the background. So in this case, imagine a revenue or a tax authority. And what happens is we all file returns on a monthly basis, or if it's a bank, people make all these various transactions. What happens in this case is through the combination of random forest machine learning and red flag theory. Random forest machine learning uses ensemble learning and classification and regression product categories to be able to make decisions or analyze and see which of these taxpayers are likely to be committing VAT fraud. And there are many schemes of VAT fraud, but I'll not dive into that. And it also gets business rules. Of course, these are internal. Every organization has its business rules, and sets flags to any transaction or any transaction that trips any of those. So depending on the number of the red flags and the coefficient given through the random forest, all these are added up to get what we are calling a risk score. So the highest level of analytics, because the journey has always been historic of what happened. We do a lot of that reporting already. Diagnostic reporting is why did it happen? Then we go to predictive. I hope many entities here are at the stage of predictive. You've seen budgeting, you've seen forecasting. Predictive analytics is something that AI is very powerful in and is starting to get utilized in. But the highest level of analytics on this journey is prescriptive. Prescriptive is where now through AI and machine learning, the system is able to prescribe to you a course of action, as opposed to just relying on your computation and experience. These are infinite resources through AI that allow to prescribe or recommend suggested courses of action. And of course, the human intelligence aspect in the employees or in the company is to dictate whether they take that course of action. So in this case, all these taxpayers file their returns and all that. And what the system has done through the models I just spoke to earlier, here it has ranked all the taxpayers and their respective things that have been anonymized by risk score. So the entity here that has the highest risk score is this particular anonymized taxpayer. And we can tell that they've tripped 8 red flags. And they also have a self-organizing map weight of 10. Now, self-organizing map is a clustering algorithm that allows to cluster different customers or different items according to their behavior. So this means this particular taxpayer is an outlier and also has stripped 8 different red flags. So what would happen in this is that's prescriptive in nature, because without this, what normally happens is analysts just either gamble their way about it or they approach this with a unique bias. I say this through historical influences and stuff like that. They'll say maybe construction companies are always fraudulent. Let's start there. So it's a gamble at best. But this prescriptive nature of it is telling the analyst that you start here, you investigate this particular taxpayer, let us see what you come up with. And of course, you can choose to say, no, I won't investigate that, I'll investigate somebody else. So it can work both ways. So we picked up this particular team. And what we're going to go to, for example, is go to these taxpayer categories. So here, overall, it gives you different items of, what the output VAT amount is, what the input VAT is, and the total number of taxpayers. You can come over here and just punch in that team that we got earlier, and it's already starting to disseminate information for you. You know that this taxpayer spends maybe 2.9 billion. So already you're saying, is this worth investigating or it's not worth investigating? But given that amount, the analyst might say, okay, I want to investigate this a little further. And then we want to go ahead and also see what flags they trip. Okay, in this case, again, we put this taxpayer in here, and then we're already starting to tell what flags, and this is also prescriptive in nature. They're saying the reason this taxpayer has been flagged or this client has been flagged, either their location is suspicious, they're having a lot of out of scope invoices, they're having high output activity, and then missing returns for some months, and then odd credit notes and supplier bias. That means, because as you can imagine, fraud rarely happens in isolation. It usually takes 2 or more entities to connive together. So that's why when there's a supplier bias, that particular taxpayer is flagged, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they are fraudulent. This all just prescribes to an analyst, so that by the time they pick up that call and call company X, they have already had this so much information fed to them that would normally take them weeks to come up with. And now when they call, they know exactly what they want to ask. They'll start with, where is your location? Because already they're saying your location might be suspicious, so you might be a briefcase company. They might very specifically be able to, for example, if you click on out of scope invoices, they will already show you, and it has prescriptives as well. It will say to you a significant amount of invoices dated out of the return side for the invoice manipulation. If you look at suspicious location, for example, again, you'll see a prescriptive. An entity without any rent, electricity, blah, 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 is a suspicious entity. So this can be done over time. And the beauty with Power BI is you do the hard work once. And I know a lot of you are interested in seeing, how do we take all this data and utilize it into Power BI? So through the ETL process, the hard work is done once. And as long as that information keeps getting added. All it takes is a refresh for that information. So you can see that when you look at the out of scope invoices, as I was saying, it immediately shows you which returns were out of scope. So by the time an analyst is picking up the phone to call this entity, they know exactly which areas to check, which in my opinion is a very, very powerful feature. Then the last one is obviously self-organizing maps through machine learning, and a lot of you are interested in that, is that and AI, is that you cannot exhaust reasons why somebody might be suspicious. But one particular way to do that is through behavior analysis. And this is important for banks, insurance companies, and even telcos, where fraud detection is very, very critical. So anomaly detection in this case can also analyze based on behavior. Self-organizing maps allow to do that by just analyzing particular customers depending on their classifications and seeing which ones are behaving out of the norm compared to their past behaviors or compared to entities that are similar to them. And in this case, where number 5 are the normal ones and then number 1 are the outliers. So in this case, you might not even start where we started. Somebody might just come and say, let us see which entities are outliers. Who are these clients? Who are these potential taxpayers that are not behaving normally? We do not know why they're not behaving normally, but they are not behaving normally. So again, an analyst in a prescriptive way is being told and offered what they can pick up. You can come over there and then go back all the way to the start. You know, it can work either way. In this case, here it was prescribed to us, but if I have a particular taxpayer in mind, like I've picked up one from the other side, I can still come and pull up and see what their risk score is. Obviously, in this case, their risk score is 48, so I'm not going to prioritize that one compared to the other. But in case somebody just gave me feedback or a tip, I can come and I can go through the entire process to identify why or to investigate this taxpayer in a prescriptive manner. I'm going to take a pause. And I think as I close to hand over to my colleague, I'll just say this is applicable to any organization. It can be used internally. It can be used for audit. If you're in finance, models like Benford can be allowed to see invoice manipulation, receipt manipulation. So it can be used internally, externally, but it's especially useful to entities in those in marketing, because you can also apply channel analysis in here to avoid losing any customers before, or to identify customers that are high risk of dropping off from your customer list. Thank you, and I'll hand over to my my colleague Oscar. Thank you. Jane, Oscar, over to you guys.
Oscar. Hi, Oscar. Can you please unmute?
You can hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, great. All right, thank you so much, Edwin, for that insightful dashboard. So let me share my screen. Okay, so I hope you can see my screen.
Yes, we can.
All right, thank you so much. Right, so I'm sure you've seen quite a lot of data, and probably you should be asking, should you trust that information? Now, this is where the aspect of governance comes in. because whatever information is being put into Power BI for analysis, it needs to be trusted. And I'll just pose a question. I would like you to look at my screen, and on this screen, you'll be able to see I have some table with some orders. And on this table, the question that you should be asking yourself is, would you really trust this data? Right? I don't want you to give an answer, but that's actually what you should be asking yourself. Now, if you look at this information, you realize that there are quite a number of errors, or in terms of incorrectness. If you look at the names, you find that the names, they look to be the same person, but they have some wrongly spelled, or the order in which the names are being placed is not correct. If you look at the dates, again, the dates, it's mixing up. So we have where we have dates starting with a month, we have dates starting with years. If you look at an order cannot have a negative. So that one definitely tells you that that's a suspicious order. The country, some are starting with USA, others it's been written as United States, and so on and so forth. Now, this is where governance comes in handy, right? So you cannot go all the way processing your data in Power BI without looking into governance, because governance is one of the key pillars as far as data analysis is concerned. So this short part is actually to allow us understand exactly why do we need governance as far as data analysis is concerned. And governance, it covers three key aspects. One is data security, right? And when you're talking of data security, this is for information and cybersecurity team. The other thing is about the data governance itself. How accurate, right, is the information? How consistent is the information or the data that is being consumed by your Power BI or by your analyst? Then we have the risk and compliance. The risk and compliance, it's all about us remaining compliant with our legal authorities. We should be able to trust the information that is being provided, or the information that is being consumed by our data analyst. So data governance and compliance is a very critical component as far as analysis is concerned, because any information that is being sent to the authorities, or you are using it to make a decision, it has to be trustworthy, right? So, and this trustworthiness, it's actually built on a particular tool. There are a couple of tools that we can use in order to ensure there is some trustworthiness on the type of data we are consuming in our Power BI. And that tool is being provided by Microsoft, right? We have a tool called Microsoft Purview, right? And with Microsoft Purview, it's a tool that will be able to really classify your information. It will be able to categorize your information. You can be able to label your information, and so on and so forth, right? And by doing this, you are impacting the aspect of governance into that information, right? So if you look at my screen, you find that you are really consuming this information from different sources for you to be able to come up with such analytic or such a dashboard. You are consuming information from on-prem, you are getting information from your cloud, you're getting information from your SaaS application. All these, they have to go through the Microsoft Purview, right? Which is actually your governance component, right? So you can see here, data, we have some data producers and consumers, whereby we have data catalogs, which enable effortless data discovery. We have data sharing, where we are sharing data within and between the organization. And then from there, we need to have some policies. We need to have things that is governing how this data is accessed, who is supposed to access, and so on and so forth. And towards the end, we have now our consumption, right? So this can be our Power BI to be able to do the analysis. It can be our Azure SQL. It can be our Azure Synopsys Analytics, and so on and so forth. So the point that we need to really get here is that, yes, we can have such insightful dashboards. We can be able to do the analysis, but we have to think of the sources. We have to think on how do we govern this information? How do we ensure that this information or this data is accurate, is trustworthy, and so on and so forth. And the tool that can actually be used that or can leverage a couple of sources is actually the Microsoft Purview, right? So at the back of your mind, even if you're thinking of Power BI, if you're thinking of doing data analysis, you cannot forget about the aspect of governance, right? So governance is very, very critical as far as data analysis is concerned. And you also need to realize that beyond governance, we also have the aspect of auditing, right? So if maybe I can just take you back here, the last part is on risk and compliance. Risk and compliance, it gives you tools and services for you to be able to do what? For you to be able to do the auditing aspect of your data, because you'll find that some institutions on regular basis, they need to be audited. They need to check the accuracy, the trustworthy of a particular information. And that's actually can be achieved by risk and compliance. So as we are maybe winding up, right? So we need to realize that Telistic is here to be able to help you analyze your information, and we can easily be able to audit your information using this particular tool and try to take your data analysis to the next level, right? So I think this was not our day for data analysis. It was actually for data governance. It was actually for the analyst. So I'll not talk much, but I'm hoping that we should be getting in touch as far as data governance and compliance is concerned. Otherwise, I will have to hand it over to Jane to take us to the next level.
Thank you very much, Oscar. Andrew, can you come through and take us very briefly through one of those interesting finance dashboards, please?
All right, thank you, Jane. So I'll just do a very quick demo of what it could look like for a finance department to use some of these tools, Power BI, to be able to ingest data and analyze it. So what I'm presenting right now is a sample of a report from a non-funded grant organization. Usually what organizations usually have is that they have systems that they're using, ERPs that they're using to collect this data, and this data is collected over vast periods of time. The way finance teams usually work is that there's a crunch usually at the end of the financial quarter or financial year, and that tends to be time consuming, and the data is only usually revealed to them. Insights from the data is only usually revealed to them at that point. What Power BI allows organizations to do is pull that data and then pull that data into such a system. So you clean the data, make sure that it meets some of the standards that Oscar is talking about. And then you visualize it in a way that makes sense to not just the finance people, but other stakeholders within the organization. So this might be a report for your management team to be able to understand how well you're doing. For this specific report, we have data ingested over a number of years. And what you can see for grant-funded organizations, the way they operate is that they are looking at budget maximization. You want to utilize the funds that are allocated to you by various donors as quickly as possible. What this demonstrates is what that data actually looks like in relation to, first of all, your activities, your donors, your programs, and then being able to see what budget attribution is, and then analyzing the end outcome, which might actually be the financial reports. So the data is broken down into their program expenditure. So this is how much they've spent, their support expenditure, this is how much they've generated, the total grants, which is how much they've received from donors, and then their burn rate, how much they've actually utilized from their donor funding. And then that's also broken down into the different funding types. There's a comparative analysis that's shared by year, so they can view how well their performance is year on year, quarter by quarter, and then see how well their program versus support. So how much they're generating versus how much they're given, how well that tracks. And then you have a graph with the donor contribution, so which donor has given how much to which individuals. And the key beauty of Power BI is it isn't simply a visualization tool, it's an analysis tool. So by making selections within the graphs and picking certain values, what you effectively get is that you are able to ask questions of the data by making selections. How much of this donor funds were utilized, and what is their burn rate looking like, and which funding types were used, and what's the quarter by quarter trends. And this extends to everything. You build the report and customize it to what fits your needs. You might be a bank, you might be the same type of organization, you might want to view by branch, you might want to view over a period of time, and all of that is possible with Power BI. The key advantage of that is usually for most organizations, the way that operates is that you have IT may be generating an Excel extract from their source system. You might have reports that actually exist within the source system but don't meet your needs. You might want to carry out some other type of analysis. And in the case of IT, they generate an extract, they pass it on to someone else, maybe the head of department or someone within a department. That person might generate a report. That report is very static. And generating insights, there's a lot of report work with actually generating the insights by the person in the department. And then each department is doing the same thing. So when it gets to management is looking at multiple reports to be able to view the performance across the organization. But what you'd have with such a report is that you can pull data from all these different sources. You add metadata to enrich it. You collate it into a single report and then present that. So you have a global view of how our sales and marketing is doing, and how that relates to finance, and how that relates to maybe your customer support program and all the different departments. And by simply making a selection of that data, you'd be able to analyze how one thing affects the other thing. So that cross-analysis by pulling all these different sources of data and then being able to do a historical timeline, go back in the data, make selections, view what that data looks like for particular selections. It gives you more insight. It derives more insight from you just being able to get that from your data. So I'll go over these briefly. So that this is the cost center analysis. So how well the cost centers are performing with specific to different cost categories. So how much spending is on salaries, how much is allocated for travel for different cost centers. That information is available to you there. And that extends to their support categories. So they can go ahead and look at how much they're generating, where that money is coming from, and where that money is being allocated to. And then it goes on further to be able to do a project expenditure analysis, where for such organizations, you're getting money from certain donors, and you want to see where that donor money is being spent. And that's visible in these graphs. So you can see who's taking up the majority of that budget and how much of that budget has been used. You can see which funding types make up the majority and what that distribution is. And then in this graph, you can see the attribution, which is essentially what I just mentioned, where you have a wholesale budget being given, a wholesale grant amount being given to the organization. And you want to see how it relates to different cost centers. So this is the total budget here at the top. It then filters down, and you can see some money from certain projects are going to certain cost centers and what that proportion is. And again, it's an analysis tool. By making selections, that data changes, so you can filter out the data basically to answer your questions in real time. So you usually how this happens in normal organizations is that you'd go back to the IT guy. The IT guy gets you another extract, you generate another report, and then you come out with the data. But in an organization trying to make data-driven decisions, what you want to happen is that you want the data available for you. You're sitting in a meeting with management, they're asking questions of you. You simply open up this report, you do a number of clicks, you get that information, you pass it on to management. it makes data-driven decision-making less staggered and more real-time, allows you to act on the information in real time at that point, and then further improve your business. So being able to make quick decisions is the qualifiers, the thing that separates you from the rest of your other businesses. It's the thing that allows you to be able to gain a competitive advantage. And while we have demonstrated a number of different complex reports today, this tool is actually very accessible. So it allows you to pull in. Right now, you could probably go and download the tool, look at an Excel that you have, pull the data into that Excel, and do a quick visualization. For more advanced, of course, it's easy to get started with, but it takes a while to master. But it doesn't mean that you wouldn't be able to use the tool personally in whatever use case you have in your organization. Well, so it's in just a number of different data types. It's very accessible for people to use, and it scales up very well depending on your business. If you're currently using Excel for your data reporting, it would be of good benefit to actually take a look at the tool and see what you can derive from it. I'll just pause here, maybe leave room for questions, and if not, I will be handing off to Jane, I won't leave. There's a question portion happening after this, so I'll just hand off to Jane. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Please, there's a Q&A open right now. You should be able to type a question in the chat if you have any, and we should be able to go over those. And if there's detailed explanation required for some, we can even connect right after. We have a tweet. We request that you follow us on LinkedIn, so that is also dropped in the chat. And there's a feedback form right there for you to share some information. But I wanted to close it off with this slide, where we believe if you signed up for this, maybe you have a data need in your organization. We wanted to share with you what's available on offer or consultancy level from Tedistic. We have what we call Dashboard in a Day. That's a free training that we arrange for organizations that have teams of data users that it doesn't have to just be IT people, but IT and the rest of the data users in the organization can go through a one-day session on Power BI, and they'll be able to build some dashboards for them to learn something. Please contact us if you're interested in that. Then we have, we've been running series on Power BI on LinkedIn. That's why we're asking that you follow us. We're going to have the next LinkedIn series on security and compliance. So the issues relating to governance, compliance, you will be able to learn a lot. Please follow us on LinkedIn. And we can support you. Maybe you're an organization that's already doing this, Power BI, and you just want to partner with someone. We can do the licensing for you and advanced training if needed. But of course, our underlying foundational license that we never stop to talk about is Office 365. If you want to sign up for these Microsoft services, because services like Purview are available in some Office 365 packages. So it's important that we let you know that we're able to guide you through that sign up. The licensing process. This is the end of our webinar. We just, not end, but presentations. We just want to welcome questions, if any. We have very few minutes, but I know once questions come up, we can't fail to get them answered even offline. Yeah. And in the meantime, please, if you don't have a question, at least, let me see. Andrew, there's a question in the chat. First go to Oscar.
Yeah, I think it's Oscar's.
Oscar, someone is asking, can we have a template as a checklist that can be used to implement data governance and security in Microsoft Purview platform?
Yep, exactly. We do have various templates that can be used as a checklist for data governance. So probably if you like us maybe to walk with you through that, then you can connect us maybe after this meeting. Then we will be able to show you Otherwise, we do have a checklist, various checklists that can be used as far as your data governance is concerned. Correct.
Timothy is just thanking us for the presentation. Thank you for appreciating. Yeah, Daniel, I don't think I've missed any question on the chat, right? Does Power BI integrate with different, let's see. Does it integrate with different processes in the company, such as finance, sales, customer care, and marketing, Andrew?
Yeah, so we haven't been able to demonstrate this today, but Power BI is an industry leader when it comes to data integrations. So it depends on what you're using for finance, sales, marketing, customer care. If there isn't a direct integration available in Power BI supports a host of different database types. So you can do either a direct connection to the source system, either by database or through their APIs, and pull that data into Power BI. If not, if the data connector, and I don't know if I mentioned this, it has a large number of data connectors. If that data connector isn't available, it is possible to build, and we're specialists at this, you can build a custom connector for your data source. So it doesn't matter whether it's an API, a database, whichever ERP or finance system that you're using within the organization, whether it's custom built or proprietary from a vendor, it's possible to integrate Power BI with that. It just, it might take a bit of effort, but it is possible.
Thank you. Let's see. Thank you, Andrew. I don't think there's any other question. Sorry. I'm trying to. Okay. I don't see any other question. Please go to the chat, fill that feedback form. If you need us to contact you, drop your question there. And then kindly follow us on LinkedIn so that you get more of these. We shall be inviting you for more of these informative sessions. We want to thank you so much for turning up. And looking forward to having you again. Thank you. Bye.